Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning up my Serissa japonica. I'm growing this in the style of the African Acacia tree, those flat top trees you see on the plains of Africa. This will be a fairly detailed pruning, so I don't know how long it'll take me. So I'm just going to go through it slowly and carefully and prune it all up. And this will be the last pruning of this tree before it goes away for the winter, where it just chills at around 10 degrees Celsius for the whole winter. It just basically stays dormant over the winter, and then in spring it'll flush out with new growth once again. I've never defoliated this tree, and I think after today there'll be a lot of branches that are probably pretty bare. I'm going to do kind of a real structural pruning to all the branches, sorting them all out. So it may involve some defoliation. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing this. The tree, I pruned it a few times over the summer, but not a real detailed look at each branch. And the moss on it has grown really thick. This is the same moss it had last year at this time, and it's grown really thick, so I may have to either pull it off or prune it back quite severely. They call the Serissa the tree of 1,000 stars, or the snowrose, and you can see why. It is just absolutely covered with flowers, as far as the eye can see. Yeah, it's quite nice this time of year. So there's a look at the moss. It's still really lush and green, but you can see how thick it is. It's almost the thickness of the pot, so that needs to be corrected. I've been trying to keep the moss off the trunk, but I can see I need a bit more cleanup of the trunk there. Maybe scrub the trunk, get some of the algae off. But otherwise, it's looking quite good and healthy. I did get a little yellowing on it this summer. I think it was from the heat. You can see, well, maybe you can see the top bits of it are a little yellower than other areas, but not too bad. It did quite well in the heat of the summer. It was in the greenhouse for the summer, and it got up to like almost 50 degrees Celsius in there. Really hot. I made sure it was well watered and misted, and it seemed to do quite well. You may notice in my tools here I have the blue scissors, and that's what I'm going to begin with. I'm going to profile prune the tree, both from the top view, which I'll begin first, getting it to a kind of rounded oval shape, and then pruning the canopy shape from the front view, getting that curvature to the canopy. And I'll be trying to match that curvature underneath to the canopy, so there'll just be a thin layer of foliage on the top of the tree. I've got the tree on the floor of the plant room here, so I can look down and prune the oval shape looking from the top. So you can see it's a little long here. Just needs kind of a general trimming. It's a little short here. So here I go. I've sharpened my blue scissors. They should be nice and sharp. So I shall begin profile pruning from the top view. And a bit off here. Now, how is that looking? It's a little long here. That's pretty well got it roughly to shape. Yeah, I think that will do for the top view. I've got the tree profile pruned from the top view, so now I will do the front view. So I'm going for more of a rounded form to the tree and matching that rounded form to the underside of the foliage. It's sort of the, they call it the Pierneef style, named after a South African painter who painted a lot of native African trees. So here I go. So it's getting very thick on the ends. You'll notice with this tree that the branches that spread out are thicker and the ones that go vertical are skinnier. They're a little weaker, these top branches. So I'm not going to touch those very much at all. most of the pruning will be done on the outer edges. So here I go. I'll be looking at the front view and I'll rotate it back so the camera can see the front view every now and then. Okay, so here I go. I'm just going to trim the top a little bit, getting some of these shoots that are sticking up a little bit out of the profile prune back. But I'm not going to do much pruning on the top at all. Like that. Now for the sides. Here I go. I'm coming to kind of rounding it down. And this side too. And this will be the most rounded form this tree has ever had. In the past I had it flat on the bottom, the underside of the canopy, and more of a slight triangular or slight rounded shape, but more of a flat top, and now I'm rounding it more. And I don't know which style I like better. Maybe someday it'll go back to the way it was. I don't know. So there's kind of the progress so far. Definitely getting more rounded. I think I've still got to take more off this end. That's getting very rounded. Okay, there's the progress so far. So it's definitely getting more rounded. It's almost umbrella shaped now. And I'm pruning it flat across the top. I haven't rounded it front to back yet. And that will be very slight. If I round it too much, then the foliage gets too thick up top. It starts to look more like a tropical tree instead of an African tree. Okay, it's getting close. I think I'm still a little long on this side. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. So there's a look at the front view now. Yeah, so I'll go to the back view now. So here's the back, and you can see the canopy underneath isn't as nice at the back. It's a work in progress. So I'm going to also prune the back view because, you know, you see just a slightly different view at the back. There is some rounding in the canopy. A little more off here. More off here. is that looking? There's a view of the back now. It looks a lot better. So I'm just looking. I'm a little heavy here. Okay, I think that's good. There's the back view now. I think it matches the front quite nicely. There's the front. So now I've got to look at the left side view and the right side view. So you can see how it's quite flat at the top, but curves down. I do want to round it slightly. You can see it's a little high at the back compared to here. So I want to round that just slightly too. So here I go on that. So there's my highest point, and I want to round it just a bit, just so it doesn't look quite so flat. Last time I pruned it, it looked a little flat on the top. And you can move your head up and down so you're seeing different angles of the profile. You can make sure it's all looking quite even. I'll come up a bit. I'm heavy here. I'll go to the other view now. Do the same. I'm a little heavy here. Just make sure. Okay. A little off here. Okay, so there's that view. That is the right view. And here is the left view. So I think I've got it level, evened out, slightly rounded. So that is it for the profile pruning of the tree. And it certainly looks a lot better now. Yeah. So next, I have to go in and sort of get some branch separation so it's not just one big umbrella on top, so that you can see some of the individual branches and there's space between them. So a detailed pruning now with what I have left. I still have lots of flowers on the tree, which is good. So for the detailed pruning, I just grab each major branch and I wiggle it, and you can see how there's no space between the branches. So I need to prune so there's a bit of space. So anything kind of growing straight up gets removed, like this one. You have to look at the structure of each branch and just make sure you don't have overlapping branches, that everything has got a spot of sunlight. And sometimes it's a matter of pruning the branches surrounding it also at the same time to create your spaces between the branches. Here's a branch down here that's getting shaded out and it's really, really weak. I'll just prune the dead tip off the end of it. Yeah, if they don't get sunlight, they do not survive. So I'm pruning back to foliage at the moment. But you can hard prune these and they will regrow. And any branches that are growing, you know, they're straight for quite a length, you need to prune them back so you don't get these straight, stiff looking branches, so they have kind of movement to them, taper. create interesting branches. And even though I profile pruned this tree, you don't have to be afraid of taking it back, too far anymore. The basic profile is in place, and then you prune these just for structure, and they'll look good in the end. And they'll quickly grow again to fill out the canopy. So if I wiggle that branch now, you can see I'm getting some separation now. This one's too long and straight. This one's too long and straight. So is this one. Here I have a cluster of branches going from one spot, so I'll simplify it a bit. Thin it out. You want your branches dividing from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, etc. And the more you prune these little branches, the more it opens up the structure, so you can make better and better decisions as you go along with the pruning. So here's one going back in towards the center of the tree, so I'm taking that off. This one also. This one's growing the wrong direction here, so I can get rid of that or prune it back to a leaf that's going the right direction. This one's too long. That one's too long. This branch is growing over top of another branch, so I'll take it away. Prune it away. I've got 3 growing from one spot here. One of them needs to go. It's going to be this one. Yeah, so now you can see that branch. It's cleaned up. There's space around it. In the end, it'll make the whole tree look more miniature. So now from the front, you can see this branch here. I'm wiggling it. So you can see the space around it, and it makes it look more like a miniature tree instead of just being a solid mass of foliage on top. It breaks it up, makes it just look a little more realistic. I'm just noticing in this view, I'm a little heavy here. I think it's just these ones up front. Yeah. Okay, so I will continue the work thinning the branches out. It's a good idea to prune away the flower buds too. After it's finished flowering, the branch doesn't tend to grow from that point anymore. It kind of backbuds around the flower bud or the seed that it's producing. So yeah, it's a good idea to kind of prune the spent flowers off because they don't grow from those tips anyway. I think I've got some spent flowers from last year still on here. And you can't really control the flowers on this. I've tried. The flowers take vigor away from growing the branches, but I've tried picking all the flowers off, and it gets to the point where there's new flowers popping up almost every hour, and it's an impossible task. You just can't keep up with it. It just, when it wants to flower, it wants to flower, and it's no stopping it. And, just like the profile pruning, you have to be fairly ruthless. You can't keep every branch. Even, if they're all good branches, you still have to prune it and thin it. You'll find these serissas throughout the entire summer. The leaves go from, this dark green. They only last so long, then they start going yellow and fall off, and they're replaced with new leaves all the time. So throughout the summer, you're always kind of brushing the tree and all the yellow leaves fall off. So it's quite normal. They don't stay perfectly green for the whole summer. It's always shedding the older leaves. So today is Monday. I have till Friday to get my trees ready for the Toronto show. And they're pretty well ready. I did all the prep work on them. There'll be some final cleanup, cleaning the pots, the stands, making sure everything's looking good for the show. If it's warm enough, I can load the car up with the trees the night before and then leave early in the morning for the show. If it's going to be cold outside, then I have to leave them in the greenhouse and load them early in the morning, which is going to be fairly difficult because they're heavy. I can do it by myself, but it's nice if I can get my wife to help me lift them. I'm going to continue working away on the tree, getting some separation in all my branches, try and get some layers to the branches, so thinning some of the branches out so there's space when you look into the canopy from the front. It'll be quite challenging getting kind of just the right look, but I'll work away at it, and then we'll come back maybe in an hour or so and check up on the progress. I'm working away, so I'm thinning the bottom of the canopy, kind of getting it rounded too. And I'm trying to get these branches flat, so when you look in the front view, you see space between them, so like layers. It's difficult. It takes a lot of pruning. But it's getting there. It's getting better. And I'm always on the lookout for long, straight branches. Sometimes branches from the bottom, they shoot up to the outer profile of the canopy and they're just too straight. They haven't been pruned over many years to get the curvature in them and the movement. So you just have to, if you encounter a branch that missed the pruning, you just have to prune it off. There's not much you can do. Now, I did some fairly big cuts in spring here. And around that cut point, there's some very vigorous straight shoots coming off. So I've got to look at those and decide if I need any of them. This one's growing back in across another branch. I'll take it right out. That one there. And I've got two coming from here. I don't think I need them. I'll prune them off short, just in case I want them for the future. Here's a look at some of the work I've done. So you can see the holes opening up. And from the front view, you can see some separation in the branches. So that's the look I'm after. So I've done about, I don't know, a fifth of the tree maybe. And I'm still not done with it. There'll be further refinement to go, but I'll just keep working away at it. And you can see the section back here that's just full. There's no gaps or spaces, whereas this is opening up nicely. Some of these branches that are really dense, I am going in and doing partial defoliation, pruning off leaves so I can see the structure. Otherwise, I'm just sort of guessing. It's so dense. And it helps thinning it out. So just, take off some of the older leaves and leaves that are crossing in front of other branches, and eventually you can kind of start to see the branch structure. It's very difficult because it's so dense. But if you just keep at it, you get there. So anything growing back in towards the tree, I'm pruning away. Anything totally vertical, I prune away. Your typical kind of branch pruning you do on any tree. It's just this has more branches to prune, so instead of taking a short amount of time, it takes a long time, which is okay. It's I find this helps pass the time until the Toronto show. I always get kind of nervous before shows, and anything I can do to take my mind off the show helps. And this certainly takes your mind off everything. So these holes here, so the intent, you prune everything off these lower branches that's growing in towards the center of the tree. And then on these branches, everything that's flowing outwards eventually fills these spaces in. So that's the idea. And then you just keep up the maintenance work to keep those spaces open. Here is an update to the tree. I've been pruning for about 2 hours now. You can see it's a lot thinner. You can see the branch structure now. I still got a long way to go. You can see it's really dense here, the back. But it's getting there. It's opening up. The structure's improving. You can kind of see the branch structure now. Looking much, much better. Yeah. So I'll keep at it. I like doing this. You see the improvements. The tree looks, I think, much more miniature now. Kind of gives it a different scale value. It looks more mature with those spaces. And you can see that, that branch structure's looking good. I did a lot of hard prunes on it, and they heal nicely. They're starting to blend in some of the bigger cuts, like here. I pruned the end of this branch off for a thinner one, and it's looking really good. Also in here, somewhere, I can't even tell anymore. Yeah. So I'll keep at it. It's coming along though. I just got to get some separation in here, thin it out some more at the back. But it's definitely making progress. So I'll keep at it. Maybe another 2 hours later, it'll be done. After another hour or so, I have finished the pruning of the canopy of the tree, so I will rotate the tree around so you can see it from all angles. Here's a look at the tree now. So that's the front view. Coming around to the right-hand side, to the back view, and to the left-hand side, and back to the front. Here's a view from down low. So here's the front, coming around to the right-hand side, the back, the left-hand side, and back to the front. My next step for the tree is dealing with this moss. It's really, really thick. Yeah. I could just peel it away. I could leave tufts of it here and there to kind of look like long grasses. I don't want to leave this layer on over the winter because it makes it hard to know if if the soil is getting the right amount of water. When it starts to get this thick, you might be just wetting the moss and the water may not be running down into the pot. So it's pretty important I get rid of it. I think I'm best just to peel it away. There's lots of spores, and you peel the moss away and it'll just start over again. You see how thick it is. Yeah, I think I better just peel it away. It's too deep a layer. Wow, is it ever thick? You can see my red African style soil down there. If we were going in a show or something, I might be tempted to leave, tufts of moss here and there. But I'm not going to show it. I showed it last fall at Toronto, so I don't need to put it in the show 2 years in a row. Or, yeah, 2 years in a row. I've stripped all the moss I can pull off with my hand. So you can see how much moss was there. So next I've got to clean up the moss around the base of the trunk. So I'll have to use the tweezers and come in and just pick it off carefully. Okay. Let's get the rest of this moss off. Expose the root base. I've got most of the moss off the root base now. I need to get the toothbrush and some soap and water and clean it up. But there's a look at it. Looks really good from this side. Yeah, so I will continue the work tomorrow. I noticed that it is pitch black outside now. I've been working pretty well all afternoon on this tree. So yeah, we'll continue the work tomorrow morning. It is the next day now, and I've been looking at the canopy, kind of looking at it with fresh eyes for today. And I'm thinking that maybe I'm a little tall in the apex here, and maybe a little thick at the sides. So let me step back and have another look at it, and maybe I'll do a little more kind of profile pruning. Yeah, I find it a little too rounded on top, so I've kind of been putting my hand over it, and I don't think it needs much off, but just a little bit. It's looking a little too rounded, and I find this end is kind of thick. Maybe that end too, so I can do a little more profile pruning. Okay, here I go. And maybe some of this adjustment is because, you know, I went in and thinned all these pads and took them back. So it kind of changed the profile a bit. Okay, that's getting better. I'm going to prune it a little more from this view. I was always a little higher at the back on this side than this side. So maybe take a little more off there. Okay, and from the back, I can take a little more off here. Okay, so there's a look at the front now. I think that's definitely flattened it out a bit. I like that better. And then I thought it was a little thick on the end, so I'm just going to taper that back a little more. I don't think I need much, but just a bit. Yeah, so there's the front now. I think that looks better. Just neaten up my profile a bit in places. Okay, I think that's good. So there's a look at it now. I think it's flattened it out a bit, thinned the edges. I think that's looking better. I left off yesterday. I was cleaning moss from the root base. And you can see the trunk is kind of dried out now, so you can see the roots a little more easily. So I'll keep doing that. I've got to get my toothbrush and soap and water and scrub the trunk. You can see how green it is. So I need to clean the whole trunk. I've got 2 spray bottles, one with soap and water, so I'll soak it down with soap and water first. The trunk and the branches. I'll let that soak for a bit. And then I have another spray bottle with just rainwater to rinse it off. So I'll be using my toothbrush to come in and try and brush all that algae off. But I'll let that soak for a bit first. I find the algae comes off a lot easier if you let it soak for a bit. Or just after a rain, it comes off quite easily. Okay, let me try it now. Oh yeah, that's coming up quite bright now. And these trees that are to look like desert trees, you don't want green algae on them. It's opposite the look you want. You want it to look dry and bleached by the sun. You can see the soapy water turning green as it takes the algae off. Just like brushing your teeth. Except when you brush your teeth, hopefully your toothpaste doesn't turn green. I think I have finished the work on the tree. The trunk is still not quite dry, but I think all is looking good. You can see the canopy's looking nice. It's thinned out. So I'll put it back in the greenhouse and we'll take a final look at it out in the sunlight. I've got the tree back in the greenhouse here. So here's a look. The trunk is pretty well dried. It's kind of a cloudy, damp day out here today, so it's not drying really fast, but there's a look at it. So you can see the root base, the trunk, branch structure. Yeah, so the tree's all cleaned up. It's ready for winter. So I'll be able to leave it out here in the greenhouse probably for another month. It depends on the weather, but if it stays kind of 10 degrees Celsius and above, I can keep it out here in the greenhouse. And then when it starts getting really cold out, I'll have to bring it inside. So you can see from above, you can see through the branches. Yeah, I think that was well worth the work. And a lot of this branch structure sorted out, so you know, as it matures, it'll be good looking branches, not just clumps of foliage that go any direction. It's sorted out pretty well. And all this branch structure, it used to be small branches at one time and they thickened up, and I'm sure there'll be lots more pruning to go on this tree as it develops into the future. But yeah, it's looking good and ready for winter. Beside my Serissa, I have my Portulacaria afras and my Schefflera here. So these two trees are going in the Toronto show. So I'll have to do the final cleanup on them over the next few days. It's Tuesday today. I've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get them all looking good. Yeah, and I don't know if I'll bring a third tree to the show or not. I'll look around and see if I have any that are, you know, show ready. But probably just those two. I think they're well prepared for the Toronto show. And at the Toronto show, your trees are beside some really, really good trees. And if your tree isn't, you know, really well prepared, mature, and looking good, it doesn't look very good beside some of these, you know, really old mature trees that have been worked on for decades. So yeah, the Toronto show is kind of where I try and put my best trees that are prepared well, my more mature specimens, and yeah, hopefully they'll look good at the show. I'm very excited about going to the Toronto Bonsai Society's Fall Show and Sale this coming weekend. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.